Om Apadamapaharatam Dataram Sarvasampadam Lokabhiramam Sri Ramam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaha. Let me begin by thanking the organizers, the team, entire team, for giving me this opportunity to be here and to share my thoughts and views with regard to the subject, which is not only academically challenging, but also it demands us to be critically evaluating some of the fundamental concepts of faith and reason, fact and value, myth and reality. But before I start with the presentation, I wish to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude towards my old friend, Swami Gyaneshwari ji. As per the cosmic plan, we had our pathways crossing way back in 94 to 96 as students of post-graduation in philosophy. And we have sweetest of the memories together. Not only this, I'm not sure if she had visualized such a glory to herself at that point of life. But yes, I can say this with conviction that I had a firm belief in the choices that she had to herself, the choices she made in her life, and her dedication spoke for herself, the kind of conviction that she had for the program that she had adopted for her lifetime, in fact. So I take pride in her as an individual, as a leader, and as a sannyasi who is now more like an anasakta karma yogi. And I wish her well. And to all the didis that I see in front of me, way long to go for you all. I wish you all Abhyuday and Nishreyas. Having said this, the title that I've picked up for myself as I teach Indian philosophy and aesthetics especially. So it was the fundamental aesthetic concept that is Shokah Shlokatvamagatah. And the closest translation from Drayden I could borrow was that piety melts the mind to love. Although I'm not very convinced with the translation, but still I think it serves best when it comes to poetic expressions of the philosophical truths, because I also believe that philosophy in itself is a very dry subject. It really needs some blessing from Sahitya, Kala, and of course history also, in order to have some grounding in factual orientation of itself. So when we talk of Ramayana, and when I say Ramayana, I'm referring to Sri Valmiki's Ramayana. And we find that there are a number of rasas. As Navadha Bhakti, we also find Navarasas. And all these rasas are found in Ramayana, but Karuna Ras is the foundational, one of the foundational rasas. Compassion is the foundation of Adikavi Valmiki's Ramayana. And especially the phrase that is Ma Nishad, I mean, entire world has deliberated on this phrase, that it is, it has the affluence of dhvani, that is suggestivity in it. And Karun Ras reaches its peak when we see that when Sita takes a vow and she disappears into the womb of earth. And Bhav Bhuti in his Uttaramcharit has to say that Eko Rasaha Karuna Ev Nimitta Bhedat Bhinna Bhinna Prithak Prithak. Bahut sare alag alag usme ras ho jate hain, but the foundation ras is Karun Ras. There is, of course, debate. There are other schools of literature whereby, you know, Shantarasa is also said to be one of the foundational rasa. But in the present context of Ramayana, I think Karun Ras is aptly, it is it aptly justifies that, yes, Karunras is the foundation of Ramayana. And as a poet of nature, Valmiki also believes that nature and life are not disconnected. And if it is, when he says that it is a twin blossom, nature and life is a twin blossom of the creation. And if human life is disconnected to nature, and if nature is disconnected to life, probably there are chances that we fail to understand the meaning of life. And also the final connection between nature, that is Prakriti, and human life becomes more meaningful if it is connected to God. There are certain references I'll be quoting, and probably this is the reason why that this human connection and connection of nature with God that can be seen in the Arambha of any Kavya or Natya Parampara, that is in the form of Mangalacharan we see, and as a Bharatvakya, that the author of any Kavya would leave us with a Bharatvakya in the form of moral message, that as a takeaway message. So, and when we come to Ramayana, and especially Valmiki's Ramayana, among the celestial phenomena he describes with equal felicity morning, evening, night, moon, and stars, and Graha Nakshatra Chandrarka Tara Gana Vibhushite Vitane Jivalokasya Vimale Brahma Nirmite. That entire cosmos is a creation of Brahma. Brahma has, created all the grahas, nakshatra, chandra, tara, and so much so that we see there is a mention when Valmiki writes that he who seeks the peak of Chitrakoot mountain, he attains auspiciousness, and that his mind will be automatically turned away from all kinds of evil and sins. For the sake of, because the paper is lengthy, so for the sake of time management, I've just jotted down a few points. The description of Pampa and its surrounding forest is another highlight of Valmiki's Ramayana. He compares blossomed Karanakar tree to a man who is bright, who's laden with bright gold ornaments and cladded in silk. The poet is fond of describing lotus and rivers time and again, and when he sees a beautiful woman, his imagination runs to the moon and lotus, and also, not only moon and lotus, it has become a trait of Indian art and literature which has gone deep-rooted with the tradition, and that is how we see the Upama in form of similes. In Ram and Sita, he has embodied the highest ideals of beauty. Ajat Vyanjanah Shriman Padma Patra Nibhekshanah Ekasra Dharo Dhanvi Shikhi Kanakamalaya Shobhayan Dandakaranyam Deepten Swen Tejasa Adrishyat Tato Ramo Balachandra Ivodita. Valmiki is not only a poet of nature, he is also, his poetry reflects criticism of life, whereby I'm trying to evaluate the ethical values that he's trying to lay down for us. There are some meaningful messages to share. He teaches that a person who, very fundamental messages, he teaches that a person who rises early morning after a sound sleep is free from drowsiness and fatigue. He advises to control our passions and impulses and warns us not to cast off good people from our lives. He tells us that many persons will speak pleasant things to us, and this is for our younger generation at the back. He tells us that many persons will speak pleasant things to us, but very few will speak or hear true but unpleasant things. Sulabha Purushad Rajan Satatam Priyavadinah. He teaches that a wise person should always have foresight and be forewarned and protect himself against evil. Anagata vidhanam tu karatavyam shubhamicchata apadam shankamanena purushena vipashchita. We must not bear too heavy burdens in life. We must eat only such food as we can easily digest. We must do things which will not
bring righteousness or fame. Another wisdom, life is short, life and death are unpredictable. We must do only what is good to all. We must not be too friendly nor too unfriendly. Golden mean is the best way. And now I'm reminded of Aristotle when he talks of virtue as a middle path. I'm reminded of Lord Buddha when he talks of Madhyam Pratipada. So the poet also says that he is a bad man who promises and fails to carry his word to the person who has done good to him. He teaches that if a person is kind in his word, none will harm him. Nahi samupapannanam praharta vidyate kvachit. He teaches friends must share good things. The noblest law of life is the law of tenderness and compassion. Papanam va shubhanam va vadhahanam plavangama karyam karunamarthena na kaschinnaparadhyate. He affirms that men err when fate marks them for misfortune and refuse to take solution, advice, take a salutation or advice from men, and men are instinctively afraid of new and strange things. He says, prosperous persons will not bear the praise of others in their presence. Riddhi yukta hi purusha na sahante parastvam. Nearest relatives are always jealous and spiteful. It is easier to make friends than to keep them, because human nature is fickle and friendships are often seen to break over these trifles. Sarvatha sukaram mitram durlabham paripalanam anityavach chittanam priti ralpet bhidyate. And strong men, they seek strong men, the company of strong men. Babhuvu balavanto hi balavantam samashritah. It is only noble and unselfish natures that have fast friendships, and that there is no real comradeship among persons who are full of pettiness, meanness, jealousy, and selfishness. Another cynical truth, I would say, a person who leaves his community and seeks the aid of strangers will be discarded by his own community and by the later ones after his own community is ruined. So life is a speeding stream, but yet we have our birthright to bliss. Sugriv has a sudden and strong fit of remorse at the grief after Vali's death. Sri Ram does not make his grief an occasion for a sublime exposition of ultimate truths of life as Sri Krishna did to Arjuna's grief. He was rather smitten by and he was more sympathetic in grief with Sugriv and was in tears and was silent for a while. He then pacifies Sugriv by saying that all is controlled by fate. Niyatihi karanam loke niyatihi karma sadhanam. But are we slaves, when Sugriv asks him, are we slaves of this pitiless destiny? Then Sri Ram has to say that no, dharma is eternal, soul is eternal, and Ramayana's idea is that life of the soul is not limited by the life of body. This certitude of paralok and of its being won by moral life runs throughout this poem. I understand that as students of philosophy, we are trained with skepticism, we are told that every method, every concept, every doctrine must be sieved through the sieve of doubt, that is Descartes' concept of doubt. And also I personally feel that when it comes to writing and phrasing down the ideas related to identities like Lord Sri Rama and Sri Krishna, one already feels intimidated by the gravity and influence of the images they carry on human psyche. One cannot even wish to be ignorant of the magnanimity of such divine entities they entail, and it becomes merely an eyewash for oneself to speak anything about them. I wish to submit that as student of philosophy, it feels perplexing to speak anything about Sri Ram, who stands on the top of the possible pedestals that humans could think of and have created in their imagination. one may already feel like either a devotee or an empty vessel making much noise. It also must be submitted here that as a philosophical method generally applied on the concepts, that of analysis seems to completely fail here, especially when the domain of ethical and aesthetic ideals have to be addressed. But certainly there are three questions that I've tried to deal with in my paper, that if Ram occurs to us or appears to us as a history or a story, but I'm reminded of my father once suggesting me, why do you even ask this? Why this question even comes to you? Not only as a student of philosophy that we have, given you this, not to, but belonging to a Sanatani parampara, this question even shouldn't arise in your mind. But I think I'll be faltering on my duty as a teacher of philosophy just to accept for the sake of accepting things. So this question was resolved while reading literature, while looking into the references. And there was a reference that there are 79,000 years ago, but I think I found little more in the textbooks. When I read K.S. Ramaswamy Shastri, he has to make references some more than 8 lakh million years, I think. So there are references. I think this is not the question to be pondered over much, but yes, what is the second? The second question is, apart from if it is a history or a story, the second question is how does it contribute to me as an individual and to the society at large? And certainly therein we do fall in the trap of mythology and metaphysics, reality and myth. And I think there are a lot of messages that one can draw while reading Ramayana as a text. And of course, Tena Tyaktena Bhunjita has been the central locus of either we say that it is from Upanishads, or it is the message equally of Bhagavad Gita, it is equally a message of Ramayana also. But I think, and the third question that I wish to address is, why do humans seek divinity? Why do we need divinity in our lives? And I think these are the fundamental questions. And just to wind up, there are few last questions which, on the basis of Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana, that as a citizen of India, we must address. What kind of, when I read, on human rights, there are 30 articles in UN, United Nations that we read with regard to human rights. And these are the questions when Valmiki is asking. It shows the concern, a king must have for his praja. Valmiki asks, if in his current times, intelligent people who follow dharma are duly respected, 2.100.9 for your reference, please. If eligible, Shastraveta, knowledgeable, intellectual, self-controlled and efficient people are being posted as ministers and administrators, 2.100.15. Are ministers able to withhold the planning and confidential discussions with regard to the development of society? Is there any delay in executing the policies and decisions taken by the authorities? Are the administrators non-corrupt and morally upright? Does the subject or the society bicker about extra tax being imposed by the administration? Are the women safe and secure in the society? Is the public opinion about the ways and methods of punishment consensual, or is it being criticized? Are the birds and animals in the state safe and taken care of? Is the finances of the state is in wrong and unsafe hands? Does the state ensure an impartial hearing and justice? Has anyone who is innocent been punished because of authorities' greed? One must observe, and there is a long list, one must observe and ask if the values Indian Constitution upholds are actually Indian in their character and nature or not. The Indian Constitution, while it claims India, that is Bharat, aptly defines what India and what Bharat refers to independently. The difference between the two is that of the very nature and the aspirations of community or class that is reflected in the cultural and spiritual values Indians have been looking up to in the name of Purusharthas. India as a mandi or business market and Bharat as a mother nation have absolutely different connotations, which must be understood and highlighted. All the 30 articles of UNO under the human rights are nothing but treating nations as markets driven highly by economy. Ramayana, on the other hand, displays the list of duties a king ensuring material and spiritual welfare of the subjects. When nations are treated as business centers and human beings are surely replaced by a lopsided value alone, that is, artha deprived of dharma. Valmiki states in Yuddha Kanda and Aranya Kand 9.30, 23.9 that out of three vargas, one must not treat one as superior. One of the dharma must not, one of the purushartha must not be treated as superior to others, and dharma should remain the foundation of artha and kam. Legitimate wealth and enjoyment must seek its roots in dharma. I would say, just as a concluding remark, that I'm reminded of Aditya Hriday Stotra, whereby Ram has gone under depression and he seeks Rama Rama when he's been given, as Aditya Hriday Stotra comes to him as a solution to the situation. Rama Rama Mahabaho Shrunuguhyam Sanatanam Yena Sarvan Rinvats Samare Vijayashase, whereby he's been told that grief is a phasing state, whereby grief touches everyone us in life, but it has to be handled, it has to be taken care of by your own integrity, by your own determination. And with these words, I request and pray once again for all of you. Thank you so much for this time.